Hello, everybody. Good morning, friends. Scott Fisher with Options for Senior Living and the Senior Placement Pro University. I'm going to have a conversation today with one of my dearest friends that I have known in this industry, that's been a partner and a support to my business for, Jeff, I think we're for 15 or 16 years now, but this is Jeff Schmit with Hub International. Jeff, how many years has it been?
I would say 2010, maybe earlier, so at least 16 years.
Yeah, it would have been 10 or 11, I think, is when we met. Holy crud. Jeff and his team at Hub International provide professional and business liability insurance for options for senior living. And Jeff, I would say hundreds and hundreds of business owners across the nation. Is that true?
Yeah, I think we're up to about 700 placement agents that we work with now.
Wow. Who'd have thought when we met that's where this would have gone, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you were the genesis of all this, and you said I can't find insurance. That's what sparked this whole thing. So we appreciate
I
it.
couldn't get insurance. I I I got to talk a little bit about, for the most part, you guys as a senior placement agent. I never thought at all that I had any liability or professional responsibility. I was just bringing families together with willing senior living providers. Everybody got multiple tours. They got to choose. So what in the heck to happen when somebody hung risk or potential liability on my neck? I got sued a couple of times, just erroneously sued. And the first time I didn't have any coverages. My contracts were not helpful at all. And I had no incorporation and no insurance coverages. Years later, that happened to me again, Jeff. And thank God I had everything in place and it stepped in and saved me. And because I didn't have any real responsibility to the claim the family was making, but senior living manages the outcomes of our business. And we, as placement agents, do all the right things and let go of the responsibility for the outcome. And wham, stuff happens. And thank God we had coverage when I needed it, in 2011 when that went down. So talk a little bit about why agents like me need our businesses need the right coverage, please.
Yeah. So I guess the first misconception that a lot of people have is I need to do something wrong to get sued. And that's absolutely not the case. You can get sued for anything, and then you're forced to defend yourself. And unfortunately, the way that we see these claims play out for placement agents is 99% of the time, it's the facility did something wrong. They're providing improper care. The family sues the facility, but then any good attorney is going to list everybody that's had contact with that resident. So the facility will get named in the lawsuit first, and typically the placement agent. And if there is a home health care company or a hospice company, everybody under the sun gets named because the reality is that's how you increase your payout if you're a good attorney. So they cast a wide net, um, and whether you're culpable or not, you need to defend yourself, which is expected.
Right.
So that's almost the main reason why you get the insurance is for the attorney's fees and defense because that's easily $25,000, $50,000 to go through that whole process.
Yeah, that first one went through. It cost me about 15 grand to defend myself, and this is back in 2005, six, man. So you know what that would have cost in today's dollars, to defend myself for absolutely nothing wrong. Just they were throwing mud against the wall. The family, the attorney, and try to implicate anybody they could into that payout. That's really what it was all about. In Arizona, and I think in other states too, Jeff, I think we have another level of responsibility. Um, how many states require senior living, especially the small residential homes? How many of those small operators really carry the right and proper insurances to cover care if there's abuse or neglect or failure to care? And then what does that do to our risk if we are placing in places like that?
It's a good question. That's also a common misperception is that most consumers and a lot of placement agents even assume that the state Department of Health is going to verify that facilities have insurance The reality is, there's only, last I checked, 4 states out of the entire country that require
Four.
that. So those states would be California, Washington, Colorado, Florida. It sounds like a good thing that they're verifying you have insurance. The problem is the way that the laws are written. Either it's not adequate coverage, or they don't have the staff to actually enforce this in the case of California. So, yes, it's a law. Is there anybody actually checking it? Not really. So there's still quite a few uninsured facilities in all of those states. And then the other 46 states, it's even worse because there's no law or mandate.
If I had done business with a home that had not had coverages on the first or the second episode, I really would have been in a mess. And on the second one, when I actually carried insurance, my insurance would have been first chair in that situation. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
that's the key is, if you want to work with facilities that have coverage, you want to be the one proactively asking them for a certificate of insurance and tracking it. Because if you don't do that, then you become the first target of the lawsuit. And you don't want
Yeah, I don't want that. No. Back in 2012, 2013, y'all, I was the president of a local association here in Phoenix called Passers, the Professional Association of Senior Referral Specialists. We were really ahead of the curve in terms of establishing and writing down best practices and a code of ethics for this industry where it didn't exist. Jeff was on my best practices committee, and we included at that time um, proper insurance coverage for placement agents in our best practices. Of course, the enforcement's a challenge because the state's not requiring it, but for our members who agreed, they willingly submitted to the best practice. I thought that was a win. When we went national in 2017, we kept that alive, and that became part of the national best practices. Arizona is now considering a law to require it. Again, enforcement will be an issue. But Jeff, how refreshing is that to know to you that the work we did 15 years ago is really starting to bear fruit?
to love it. And the reality is, this insurance is so inexpensive that it's a no-brainer, in my opinion. I don't know why you would operate a business without it. Created this program, we did it with the intent of knowing a lot of these are owner operators, right? So they don't have big insurance budgets. So we wanted to create something that was comprehensive but still affordable to the solo operator. But yeah, it is absolutely refreshing that we're starting to see some reform.
During COVID, Jeff, I was like a lot of people were considering, what am I going to do with my business? Where can I go from here? I seem to have a lot of extra time on my hands. And I started writing down the program, what we now call Senior Placement Pro U. And you and Jason Buckingham from the Senior Placement software program were the first two people I called to say, man, if I'm going to go offer a package program, a business in a box, so to speak, where an individual could come to us, get the right training, the right foundation, the right basics, but I'm also going to point them and connect them to the right leaders in business that will complement and support their business. I couldn't think of anybody else other than you to call about this whole insurance issue. You've been my personal agent for years, advisor to so many things. And now that you've got this national spread with 700 plus clients, my gosh, what a wealth of information you are to the brand new individual that's getting into this business, that you and your team is there for them to advise them and help them mitigate risk and set this up the right way to maximize their effectiveness and mitigate potential problems down the road.
I appreciate that. And, the interesting sidebar is we hired the underwriter to help me put together this program in the first place. So back in 2010, Amanda was our underwriter that helped create this. I stole her away from the insurance company. Now she's the account manager that handles all of these. So between Amanda and myself, it's a good 1-2 punch of, humbly, what I would say, two experts in the team.
Without a doubt, without a doubt, and I'm proud to always share your information and guide people that come through the program. And I appreciate when you've sent people our way, um, and they're getting their business started, and they might be lost. When you see people start their business, Jeff, what do you see in them? Do you see excitement, bewilderment? New person starting a business, not so much somebody that's bought a franchise, because there's a corporate pathway that they're following, but the individual that's like an independent that's getting off the ground, you got to see some common things and offer them some ideas or some insights.
Yeah, I would say it's all of the above: excitement, bewilderment, being scared. It's a little tense when you're starting a business, as I'm sure you remember. And I started a business myself before we sold the hub. The first year or 18 months, you're trying to figure out how to fly, and that's where I think a lot of people get burned out, and also a lot of people quit the industry within the first 12 months because of not seeing traction and success. And if you're going from a W 2 salary to now eating what you hunt and kill, um, that's scary. You need some revenue right from the very beginning, and that's where I think going through your program is really going to set you up for success.
My belief is that people try to get into business with no, because there's no barrier to entry, and there's no license to acquire, Jeff. And so many people come at this from the idea that I'm going to bootstrap my way into this, and when I can afford it, I'll add my insurance, and when I can afford it, I'll get my. And I say, well, you might consider putting together a little bit of cluster of money to invest up front. A franchise owner will often spend 60 to 100 grand the first year when they buy into a business. We're offering this whole package, and with your insurance as an add-on, less than half of that. And so there is some. We tell people there is some upfront expense that you want to put aside a year's worth of money for your insurance. So if it's $2,500 for the year or whatever, I mean, for goodness sakes, spend it. You know, if you need the data management for your clients and your senior living, spend a couple of grand, do it, because that's the part of the investment to give you success. If you're chasing, the stress of that is really, mm, I think it's detrimental to your business when families feel your pressure and stress from the business side of it when you're trying to lead and guide them with heart and compassion.
Yeah, I would agree. And the reality is, even if you look at insurance purely as a marketing piece, it's valuable in and of itself there, because how many contractors do you see licensed, bonded, insured on the side of their vehicles? You know, and that's a good selling point to any family that you're working with. Is
Yeah,
I'm not licensed, but I am
yeah,
insured. And here's my proof
yeah.
of insurance. You need to see
For those of you that come through the program that choose to partner with us, and we'll help you get your business launched, you're going to be pointed to the NPRA for your national membership to our National Trade Association. One of those best practices is that you'll carry proper insurance coverages, and that's the NPRA sees the value of that. We always did. You're going to get a direction from me to meet Jeff and Amanda and get a quote for your business, and to consider partnership with them. Um, there's no state law that requires any of this. Like I said, although Arizona's looking at, I understand it might be on Governor Hobbs's desk right now, which would be an amazing win. And for the principle of professionalizing this industry that's had a long history of being kind of rogue. And, years ago we were called body brokers and bounty hunters, Jeff. And so I feel like it's good news if people start seeing us as more of a professional ally than than the necessary evil that I think some people saw us as.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And we're anybody that you refer our way, we're very low pressure. Everything we do, providing quotes, all that, it's a free service. There's no not obligating to anything by engaging us, but at the very minimum, I'd say get a quote from us. What we found is, since we designed the program and pricing, we designed it where we're going to have the best coverage for the cheapest price.
Yeah, yeah, and you absolutely do. What, from your perspective, since you have a vision of this, what makes a new business owner successful with this business? Are there some qualities or things they do or preparation maybe the successful ones have had that others haven't, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think understanding how to navigate the conversations with discharge planners and things like that is key. And that can be a little daunting if you don't already have a built-in network of that. And so, how do you start that conversation? And I think that's where going through your program can kind of help set them up for success. Is building that network quickly versus
Yeah.
a course of 12 months. How do we get the ground running?
In module 7, you guys, I take it extensive. It's probably the longest of all the modules. We talk about developing your business from a business to business perspective with those discharge planners, elder law attorneys, financial advisors, those different industries that all touch these families. We talk about how to build and establish relationships, key things to say, key things to consider when you're beginning to meet and talk with all those. We're also talking more about developing a business to consumer perspective, Jeff, more than ever. That I think with the shift in the way TikTok and various forms of social media, podcasting, and the likes, all these opportunities exist for a small business owner to be able to reach the consumer directly as well, and not just depend upon a network of professionals. You got to have both, and so when we build this business, we know that I've got to have a rounded approach to going towards our community. I think it's just critical. So we spent a ton of time on this aspect of it for folks. Um, when people fail, you ever have any feedback for why people fail, why they close their business, get out?
Yeah, I mean, they don't come out and say it typically, but the gist that I get is paralysis by analysis.
Mm,
There's so many different things. You can do 1,000 different things in a given day as a small business owner. What are the highest impact items that I can do right now? And I think that's where people just kind of get lost in the weeds and confused. And so they're having a lot of activity, but it's not the right type of activity. That's where they need somebody to kind of guide them and point that laser focus.
so many people are busy and not productive. People have worked for me, people that I've seen come and go in the greater Phoenix market, and of course, so they're really busy and they're not doing anything that's going to make the phone ring or make the bell ring on their business. I wished I had somebody like me years ago to bounce some ideas off of, maybe keep my path a little straighter. I've been at this. I'm in year 24 now, Jeff. Can you freaking believe that? 24. My daughters that work for me were one when we started the business. One.
And you've helped so many people even before Senior Placement Pro was around. So it's kind of neat seeing the ripple effects of that.
I wanted to, a lot of people write their book or their autobiography or their memoir. This is it. Honestly, God, you know me. You know how I operate. Everything comes from the heart. And if I was going to leave something behind, it's those best practices and it's this program to make an influence and make an impact for the next generation of placement folks. The demographics are insane. Don't believe anything you hear that the market's saturated. If the market was saturated, there would be no Wendy's or Burger Kings. Everybody would just let McDonald's have the lane. Consumers need us all over the nation. They've got to have quality, heart forward, considerate professionals that are prepared to help them through really tough stuff. The burden of care on the adult kids is insane. I've just lost my mother and my father-in-law in the last year. I know all about burden of care personally. And so being prepared properly, having the right support around you, risk mitigation in your business. Module 8, Jeff, is all about the operations side. So that's where I speak extensively about needing to meet you and Amanda, of course, needing to meet Jason and the senior place team, managing the finances and contracts and all that kind of stuff. But before we get out of here, is there anything that you want to encourage people with? Is they're considering or they're watching this, considering maybe getting a business started in this senior placement realm? You've seen it for years. Is there anything you'd offer before we get out of here?
The number one thing I would recommend is make sure you have your contracts with the facilities dialed in. We've seen a lot of people either not have a contract at all or have one that has all kinds of holes in it. So either find a really good template by somebody provided by somebody that you trust that knows this industry.
They get it with me. They get the templates. You get those templates that have been tested in the fire.
Or the alternative is you go and you spend $5,000 in an attorney and have them create it. So
Right,
rather
right.
the training plus the template for.
Yeah, yeah. It Modulate is all about getting the backbone built for your business and your operations that you absolutely need to have. You can't just go out this with a good heart and a gung ho spirit. You got to have some things set up and behind the scenes in your contracts. I'm glad you brought that up because it's in those contracts that you really insulate yourself and create that protective layer that you need to have in addition to the insurance. They go hand in hand. So.
The other parting piece of advice I would add is um, group homes are phenomenal, and oftentimes they are the best care for a particular family. However, um, we insure about 350 group homes, and a lot of them don't carry insurance prior to coming to us. So just be very careful on the group home side. Larger chains, the Sunrise and all that type of stuff. The bigger facilities, they're going to have insurance. They're not operating without it. But it's the smaller group homes that you would be really careful.
I even added a clause in the contract template that I offered, Jeff, is that, of course, enforcement's impossible, but there is a clause in there that says, by signing this, I agree that I carry. And they also agree to indemnify us. So the attorney I used built some pretty strong language in there to protect us and address that very issue that the homes that we use. And I tell our girls now, ask the owners right up front, do they have insurance and can they provide us at least the day we sign their contract with them that they are providing us with that coverage page. So
And
we'll cover that in Modulate.
and I would add to that, make sure you're keeping a copy of it in your CRM so you can go back and reference that.
Yep, yep. And we can do that with Senior Place. They've got all kinds of places to add that in. Hey, it's good to see you. I so appreciate your friendship. It's been a long run, and let's just keep it running, man. I appreciate all that you do for the industry and the friendship you've offered me for all these years. Thank you.
Absolutely. We love this industry. We love you, Scott. So we're here to help out.
All right, you guys. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a great day.